Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Accountable Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about something that comes up with every single client or group that I work with. So I work with groups as well. And this is the fact that change is hard. So I find myself saying this all the time to people, and it's because change is really, really difficult. Whether you're trying to wake up earlier, maybe you're trying to create some boundaries in different areas of your life, or carve out time for the project that you've been dreaming about for so long, and it's time to take it on. Underneath all of that and so many other things that people are pursuing, you're asking yourself to change a habit. And that's why I find myself saying, it's okay, change is hard. So many times on different coaching calls and group sessions and all that stuff, because we don't think about achieving a goal as being change. But underneath everything that you're doing, we have routines in our days, and you're trying to change something, and trying to change something is very, very difficult because that is how our brain is wired. It's not that you lack discipline or you feel like sometimes people will say, like, I'm bad at follow through. I mean, sure, you might have moments where you feel like that. I'm not trying to take away the feeling, but the thing is that our human brain resists change. We like routine, we like habits, and therefore it's very hard to change those. And it's a good thing when we have a good habit because it's harder to change it, right? When we have a bad habit, we have to understand it's hard to change that too. And even if it's a neutral habit, it's not necessarily good or bad. When we're trying to change anything, it's just difficult. And there is decades. I mean, if you look at research around change, you can find so much. But what I wanted to bring us into is the Transtheoretical model of change, which I know sounds like super fancy and like this really long word, but it's the thing that I come back to every time I'm bringing people in and talking about how they're pursuing a goal and how this is feeling difficult. I come back to one model of change because it's very, very easy to see. If you're watching the video, I'll make sure to put a visual up as I'm talking about this, but you can Google it and see the visual of it. But just seeing how you can see, and I'll walk through it on the podcast so you can hear it, but it's a very easy thing to understand once you hear these terms. And so as I'm going to share a lot about this, but if you are along this journey of pursuing a goal and you're like, I know I need support through this because it just hit me. I'm trying to make a change and that's really hard and I need some support. Just know that I've got options available. You can always go to my website at amandamckinney.com/work with me and see the current ways we work together. Because as you know, things change with different seasons. So you can go and check it out and I'd love to hear from you. You can also email support@amandamckinney.com and I'd love to hear from you there too. But let's talk about these stages of change. And like I said, I see this all the time with my clients, and it doesn't matter what they're pursuing. The goals are always different in terms of what people are pursuing. Maybe they're trying to write a book or launch a podcast, or maybe it's even delegating something for the first time in their business or for the 50th time, but it just seems difficult for whatever reason. The key here is to understand that when we are stretching ourselves, that's where you hit resistance. It's like a resistance band. You know, when you're exercising, it's like, oh, it's okay for a little bit. And then you feel the resistance at a certain point. That's where your muscles will gain strength. And not that I'm a fitness person over here, but you can feel that. You can almost like sense it when you like feel that resistance, like, okay, I'm working that new muscle. That's what you're doing with change. You're working a new muscle in your life. And recently, one of my clients said, I found her, like she said this several times on a call. She said, I know I shouldn't be thinking this way. And I caught her mid-sentence several times. And I actually said, you're doing the exact thing that you need to be doing right now. Like, I know you feel like you shouldn't be thinking this way or that you shouldn't still feel this way, because she was falling into that trap. And I was like, it's okay. You have been thinking this one way. You've had this one story for 20 years or more. Maybe even longer in your life. You are trying to rewrite a story that has been in there for quite some time. And so it's okay that you're feeling a little discomfort right now. And it's just part of the process. Resistance is not failure. It's just part of working out that new muscle. And that was really helpful for her. And so I wanted you to hear that as well as we go into these stages of change. So in the Transtheoretical model of change, there are different stages. And the first stage is pre-contemplation. And this is where you don't even see the need for change. This might, for entrepreneurs, it might sound something like this. Like, I don't think burnout is a problem for me, or I don't need systems. I just keep it all in my head and it works just fine. This is when so often in the pre-contemplation phase, it is you have seen someone identify the problem, maybe even here on this podcast. Maybe I've said something and you're like, meh, that's not a problem for me, which maybe it isn't, but I would encourage you to ask. If it's something that you keep hearing, I would start to ask yourself, is this something I'm supposed to be hearing right now? At least that's what I do for me. Because sometimes you'll hear the same problem over and over and you're like, okay, maybe I really need to be listening to this. But someone else, maybe a biz bestie, a partner, a friend, a client even, someone could say something and you just think, nope, this is not a problem for me. I would encourage you to just dig a little deeper, just ask yourself, because again, it may not be a problem, but it also could be. So just being open to that is a good idea. Once you recognize the problem, then you move into contemplation. This is when you start to think things like, okay, something needs to shift here. You don't have all the answers, but you're aware that like, okay, I didn't think I needed the systems, but maybe I do. Okay. So I'm here for it. I'm just here in this moment. And you might think things like, I'm working too many hours, but I'm not sure how to change it. So you feel that of like, I'm aware of the problem, but I don't know what the solution is yet. Maybe it's, okay, I know I need to do some more marketing for my business, but I don't even know if it's even worth that effort right now. And so you're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out in pre-contemplation. I'm aware that there's a problem. I feel it, but I don't even know what to do with this information yet. And you might hang out there for a little bit. Now, if you start spinning in this contemplation phase of, I know there's a problem, but I don't know how to fix it, please seek support. Because if you're spinning, that's when you got to talk to someone else. Find that biz bestie, find a friend, find a coach, a mentor, someone, and talk to them about the thing. And of course, a therapist is a great option for this as well, especially in life stuff, more than even entrepreneurship. So once you're aware of the problem and you're like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. I'm not just going to hang out in the spinning of like, I know there's a problem, but I'm not doing anything. Then you move into the third stage, which is preparation. This is where you're aware of the problem and actively seeking a solution. This is when you're evaluating different options. This is when you sign up for 45 webinars and are like, I'm going to solve this problem tomorrow. This is when you're downloading all the free things and you're trying to fix the problem by accessing free content. And you're not fully in an action stage yet, but you're getting ready. So the things you're taking action on, which sometimes can feel like action, but it's really in this preparation phase, is evaluating. So it's like signing up for the webinar, downloading the things, listening to podcast episodes like this one, right? You're doing an action, but it's not an action towards a solution. You are evaluating solutions. That's the preparation phase. And this is a wonderful place, but you can't get stuck here forever. This one, people love to get stuck in. Certain personality types get stuck here because evaluating options is super fun for a lot of people. If you're smiling and you're like, yeah, that's me. Be careful because you can hang out here for too long. Other people don't even pay attention to this one. They'll see one solution, they move forward, and there's no time spent in preparation. You kind of want to have a Goldilocks effect here. You want to have just right amount of time, which it just depends on what the decision is in terms of how much time that is, but you really just want to evaluate some options and then move forward. So once you've evaluated options, you move into the action phase. This is stage 4. And this is where you start to take action towards the actual solution. So you're not evaluating things anymore. This is active action taking. This is things like you hire the VA and assign real task to that person. So it's not thinking, who should I hire or what task should I outline or outsource? It's who am I hiring and what are they doing? It's actually giving those actions. Maybe it's recording the first 5 episodes of your podcast instead of just thinking and playing around on Canva with your podcast title, It's taking action towards the end result that you're trying to do, launching the podcast, whatever it is. Maybe it's saying no to a client that doesn't align with you anymore. This is a real tough one. This one is really hard. Once you've made some decisions in your business, like I'm making this pivot or I am doing X, and you have to then put the line in the sand of saying no to something. Saying no is an action. And so that's a big one too. And a lot of people can actually get hung up in the action phase because again, just like some people are more prone to hang out in the evaluation phase, some people are really action takers and they're like, I'm always taking action. And I'm going to raise my hands. This is the bucket I fall into. So just as a heads up, like I know a lot about this one because this is the one that if if I'm not really careful, if I don't surround myself with people, meaning coaches, mentors, biz besties, friends, all the things that will say, Amanda, have you slowed down a little bit to think about what you're doing? I won't. Like it's a problem for me. I know, because action is actually the easiest thing for me to do. I'm not saying it with a badge of honor here. I'm saying it and also recognizing that I can take action faster than I can actually slow down and make sure I'm taking the right actions or celebrating the actions that I've taken. So this is the bucket I get hung up in, and I'm going to encourage you to seek which bucket you get hung up in. That's why I wanted to share with you how open I am about where I get stuck, because the more you know, the more you can look out for it. So I know I have to surround myself with people who will remind me to slow down versus surrounding myself with people who are only action takers, because then we'll just all take action together. We'll get things done, but it might not be the right things. So that's where the action steps come into play. Then stage 5 is maintenance. Now, maintenance is where your actions really can turn into habits. Now, not every single thing has to become a habit. This episode is not focused on habits, but I am going to talk about them a little bit right here, because when you have done something for a while, it doesn't mean you've done it every single day. Not everything you do in your business happens every day. But when you've done it for a while, it becomes more of a maintenance thing. It's not a change anymore, so it's easier. When it starts to feel easier, that's when you're in maintenance mode with that specific thing. So maybe you wanted to work really hard. You were willing to work really hard on a change to like close your laptop at 5 p.m. and be done for the day because you really want to check out and like have friend, family, self-time, whatever the case is. And you've done that for like 6 months, the majority of the time. No one's going to be perfect. Let me be very clear here. Maintenance does not mean 100% of the time. Maintenance means it's more of a routine. It's easier. It's easier to stick with it than it is to not stick with it. And so once you've done that for like 6 months or so, like you're in really good shape in terms of that being more maintenance mode. And then what you can do is you can tackle something else. So often I talk about goals and picking one thing. Spoiler alert, this is why. This is why I say pick one thing. Because you're changing something and it's freaking hard. And so if you're trying to change 13 things, because most people will be like, I have 10 goals, Amanda. Great. But let's not tackle them all at the same time. You can have those goals, that's totally fine. But let's not tackle them all at the same time, because can you imagine going through these phases with 10 things? You'll go crazy. Of course, you're going to feel burnt out. Of course, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Of course, you're going to feel like you can't catch up. You can't catch a break because you're trying to do all these things. You're trying to go through all of this with 10 things. Pick one thing that you know it's going to be hard. So we're coming into it knowing it's going to be hard. Go into it knowing, okay, this is a process, but I can get to the end and then tackle another thing. It's just like if you were to work with a personal trainer or with a nutritionist, a therapist, any other person that is helping you make changes in your life. Is what I try to do as the person helping you achieve goals is let's narrow the focus down and take one hard thing at a time. Let's get that hard thing across the line in terms of maintenance, and then we'll tackle the next thing. How about that? Because you're going to feel progress pretty quickly, which is fantastic. The problem is the long term, you have to keep going. So most people tend to say to me like, oh, I know it takes like 21 days to create a habit. That's actually not true. There's more and more research on this all the time. The average is actually 66 days. And that's if you're doing something every single day to try and rewire it. Most things in your business, you don't actually have to do every day. Sometimes you do. Like if you're trying to close the laptop at 5 p.m., like yes, you're doing that every day that you're working, but sometimes you're trying to like get clear with your finances. And so you're doing that twice a month, right? That takes a lot longer than 60 days or 66 days because you're not doing it as frequently. So you see here is like the timing is a little bit different because some things you don't have to do every day. But if you're doing something every day, you can see progress and get into maintenance mode in about 66 days, which is another reason why I love working with people with like the minimum is 90 days for me when I work with people one-on-one, because I know that you need to see progress over time and you're not going to you'll see quick wins, but you'll have some dips too. And I want to make sure to get you through that. So throughout all of this, you can actually relapse at any point. So you've probably heard this term relapse when it comes to like recovery in some way. But here's the thing, change is hard, just like addiction is hard. And so when we're trying to make a change, we can actually relapse to those old habits really easily. I just said it takes 66 days to create a new habit on average, at the minimum, really. And so if you think about it, like the chances of you actually making it from day one to past day 66 with zero mess ups, we're going to use quotes here, mess ups, is like 0%. I don't know anyone who like doesn't mess up, right? In terms of we're trying to do something new. So what you have to do is understand that relapse is part of the process. The cool part is once you relapse, you never really go back to that pre-contemplation. You know the problem's there. The contemplation you really don't even have to do. The preparation you really don't have to do. You just have to go back to the action phase and like kind of loop around like, okay, I'm aware that I missed it. Okay, this solution is still the one I want to go for. Yes, I'm just going to miss it and move on. That's the phrase I tell all of my clients to remember, miss it and move on. This was for my dear friend, Megan. Shout out to Megan who said this to me the first time, and it just has changed my life. And it's because it's easy to remember. When I mess up, I just say, miss it and move on. And I'm able to just get back on, get back on the train of what I wanted to do. And I want you to take that with you as well. And just know that it's part of the process. That is totally okay. You just miss it and move on and keep going. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today, as I've sprinkled throughout, is because when you are trying to change something in your business and in your life, and you are trying to achieve a goal, which means you're trying to change something, it is going to be hard. And I think if we can just go into it knowing, okay, this is going to be hard, but I choose this hard, because I truly believe we all choose our hard. Working for someone else is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. We have raised our hand and said, I want to be an entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. I'm choosing this hard versus the other hard. Now you're choosing specific goals. And so some people want to hit a certain number. Some people want to start the podcast. Some people want to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. You're choosing your hard. When you choose your hard, I think if you can go into it and say, okay, I'm choosing my hard. I know that change is hard. And I know that these are the phases. And then I want you to take it one step further. I want you, my dear friend listening, to understand where you typically get stuck. Do you typically get stuck evaluating options? Do you typically get stuck in the action phase like myself? And it's like, I'll go, 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 but I'm not slowing down. I may be taking the wrong action, but I'm taking action. Do you get stuck in thinking there is no problem? And that idea of like, I'm just not even aware, blissfully unaware that there's problems. But deep down, oh, well, I'm not achieving my goal because of something. So it might be X, Y, or Z. Think about where you get stuck. Where in these phases of change you typically get stuck. And the reason I want you to reflect on this today is because, my friend, if you know where you get stuck, you can put some things in place to support yourself during that stuck phase. Every single one of my clients, I know where they get stuck because I work with them all the time. They've hired me, whether it's one-on-one or different ways that I work with people. And they say, this is me. I need some support as I'm making this change, as I'm pursuing this goal, and as I'm implementing, because I'm able to then say, it's okay, miss it and move on in those moments. Not, they're not spinning. None of my clients are really spinning. They may have a little bit of time, but they can reach out and then say, like, I'm really getting stuck here. I need some help. And they've enlisted my support. I'm not saying everyone has to work with me. I don't have the capacity to work with everyone. If you want to work with me, please reach out. But I want you to find the support that you need and understand where you get stuck so that you can get the support that you need in those moments. So I want you to think about that today. And I don't want you to just listen to this and not take action. The action I want you to take is to think about where you get stuck and identify the stage of change that you get stuck. I'll remind you of those really quickly again. Stage 1 is pre-contemplation. You're not even aware of the problem, or you're in denial that it is a problem. Stage 2 is contemplation. You know something needs to shift, but you're not aware of the solution yet, or you haven't chosen a solution yet. Stage 3 is preparation. That's where you're actively seeking the solutions and making a plan. A lot of people will say, I'm making a plan. I'm creating that plan, but they get stuck with the planning instead of execution. Stage 4 is the action phase where you're taking action towards the solution and actively doing things towards the solution. And then 5 is maintenance. That's where it becomes more of a habit and you're blissfully unaware of other problems, right? So you're hanging out in the maintenance phase. This is the most comfortable phase, is the maintenance phase, because you're not making change anymore. You're in maintenance mode. And again, relapse can happen anytime. So recognizing where you get stuck is so important, and that's the phase. That's what I want you to do today, and you most likely felt it in your gut. So what I want to leave you with today is that change is hard, but it's not impossible. You can absolutely do this. You can make the changes. You've done it in your life before. You're fully capable of doing it. But what I want you to do is empower yourself by knowing where you typically get stuck so you can get the support that you need. And if I feel like a good support to you, reach out anytime. You can go to my website at amandamckinney.com/work with me, or email me at support@amandamckinney.com. And until next time, my dear friend, I want you to be gentle with yourself as you're making these changes. I know that I just reminded you, but I want you to remind yourself each and every day that you are rewiring your brain, and our brain loves routine. And so while you're rewiring, while you're telling it a new story, while you're moving through these stages of change, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And so you got to give yourself lots of grace, but I want you to keep being accountable and honest with yourself along the way too. So have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.